In this episode, we're going back in time to the year 1870. We're going to land a Catalina seaplane in Papua New Guinea, and we're going to share memories of Roy's first primary school.
Welcome to Young Roy, a show which explores the adventures and misadventures of Roy Giesemann and the people, places and events that have influenced his life.
Hi, it's Peter here, and welcome to the first episode of Young Roy. A bit of background about the show. My dad, Roy, was born in 1930, which makes him 86 years of age. But at heart, he would have to be one of the youngest people I know. He has seen many changes in his lifetime, and this podcast is about reliving some of the adventures and misadventures of Roy during that time. And on the line, we have young Roy. Hello, Roy.
Yeah, good morning, Peter.
How are you today?
Oh, no, pretty good.
That's good. You excited about our first episode?
I reckon.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, now, Roy, if I were to mention the year 1870 to you, now that's not in your lifetime, but it is a significant year. What does that year mean to you?
Yeah, a couple of very important things, Peter. Firstly and foremost, it's the year my dad left Hamburg in Germany to come on the vessel, the Humboldt, and it sailed from Germany in July 1870. His dad as an infant and two siblings as well, and arrived at Dunwich, which then in those days was the quarantine station for Queensland. Dunwich is on Stradbroke Island. And the amazing part about that is the coincidence of it all is that in 1930, as you mentioned, the year I was born at Wynnum, which from where you can see Dunwich.
No, okay.
So I haven't moved too far, have I?
No. Now, your dad was commonly known as Harry.
Yeah, Uncle Harry, I heard all his people used to call him as, or Pop from me.
And you referred to him as Pop. And what age was he when he was travelling on that Humboldt out to Australia?
He was born in March, so July, he would have been 4 months old, Pete.
That's amazing, isn't it? And that's
a
3-month trip?
It took from July till November, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So he spent half of his life when he got here, he'd spend on a boat.
That's correct, yeah. How about that? About equal they would have been, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Amazing. So that's where the Giesemann family's connection with Australia started, and that was on the Humboldt coming from Hamburg in Germany.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. We're going to explore more years as we go through our podcast, so look forward to discussing those as they come by, and there's been a few to recall.
Yeah, now, Pete, what I'm so proud of about the year 1870 is that it just represents two generations from there to myself today, you know. I'm so proud of that fact.
That is amazing, isn't it? So we've got 1870 to 2016.
Two generations, yeah.
Yeah. So that's 146 years in two generations. That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't think too many people who arrived in 1870 would have children alive today. I don't believe any so anyway.
No. Well, when your dad came out at such a young age, he was ahead of the rest. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. And now we're going to discuss a number of topics during our Young Roy podcast. And so one is a year and another one is an institution. So what institution will we talk about today, Roy?
Which one would you like, Peter? There's quite a few.
Okay, let's start in your school days. So what was your first primary school?
First primary school was Budrum in Queensland, near the Sunshine Coast.
Yep, so that's the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. And
the year was 1935.
So you're a 5-year-old?
And naturally walked to school from our farm. We had a huge farm at 128 Burnett Street.
That's in the main street of Buderim?
Main street of Buderim, opposite, as it was in those days, opposite the ginger factory.
Mm.
And now on the block of land is just so many things, like blocks of shops and a caravan park and so many other buildings as well. But it was red soil and very, very productive.
Mm. And of course that red soil is just hidden by commercial properties now. So that land that you owned, that your family owned as a farm, is now very valuable commercial property in the main street of Buderim.
It would be, Peter, yeah. And our home was probably on the second highest point of Buderim, and overlooking from Maroochydore to Caloundra. Just beautiful.
Magnificent views up there, that's for sure, yeah. And so the journey to school, you said you walked, was what, about a kilometre or so?
Oh, I'd say two kilometres, Peter, to Buderim Primary School, yeah.
And how many kids at the school?
Oh, Peter, that's a good question, but probably between 80 and 100, I reckon, yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's a substantial school. And then
Yeah.
Do you remember much about your classes or your teachers?
Yeah, well, Miss Crosby was my teacher. And the amazing thing in those days, Peter, was Buderim was a very Methodist type of town, to the extent I don't think they had their first liquor outlet until well into the 1950s. And but on Buderim there were 3 Catholic families which everyone sort of knew because of they were the only 3 other than probably Methodists that were there, you know. And certainly other than Protestants anyway, but Miss Crosby was one of them. Mm.
And what do you remember about Miss Crosby apart from her being Methodist?
Pete, she was just a caring teacher, you know, just a lovely...
Was she young? Or
yeah,
Miss,
Miss Crosby, yeah.
Yeah. And how many in your class?
I'd say about 20, and one of them was, as you would appreciate, someone I've spoken to you about before and who I believe you have met, Gloria Nomnus. She was one of my best mates. And no, they were good days, Peter.
Yeah, so, well, it's good to revisit them. And how many years did you spend at Buderim Primary School?
Yeah, just the 1 year.
Oh, then you got expelled, or what? What happened?
Yeah, naturally got expelled, yeah. Just a matter of interest, an Afghan came around in the middle of 1935 with a camel, and for a penny on the school grounds, naturally the school grounds are still the same, the oval at Buderim Primary, and for a penny you had a ride on this camel.
Yeah. One hump or two?
2 humps. And boy, oh boy, it really shook you up when the camel got up off the ground. But anyway, no, it was very exciting. Anyway.
And you had a ride, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cost a penny, but...
Right, okay. Yeah. Now, why did you leave school after 1 year?
Well, we went to the farm at Maclean near Jimboomba in south of Brisbane.
Okay, so family moved.
It's 40k south of Brisbane on the corner of Chamber Flat Road and the Mount Lindsay Highway, 320-acre dairy farm, which in those days was standard. There were so many 330-acre blocks in that area to be used for dairy cattle, for milk, for producing milk, and ours was one of those. And one thing I'm so proud of, Peter, is in Chambers Flat Road, on this day, if you drive along there just about a kilometre off Mount Lindsay Highway, you'll see nestled on the Logan River is Giesemann Park in big gold letters engraved in a timber plank. And I'm so proud of that.
Well, what's very impressive about it is the name spelt correctly too. So
that's a change, Pete. Yeah. Because I used to run a book at work, and I think I was on about my 3rd page of the different spellings I had over the years of people addressing me with different spellings. Yeah.
Now that park, is there a story as to how that came to be? Why did they call it Giesemann Park? Or
Oh, well, it was our land. Gordon donated it to the Desert Shire Council, Peter.
Okay.
And naturally they called it, which, it's pretty natural throughout Australia if there's a strong relationship with a name, like even street names as well, they use it, and that's certainly what's happened there. But,
Yeah, excellent. So we've journeyed from Budrum over to Jimboomba, but we'll leave that journey there, and we'll continue that at another stage. But now another segment we've decided to include in our podcast is scary moments. So it's all about the adventures and misadventures of Roy. Have you got a scary moment to share with us, Roy?
Oh, I've been blessed many times, Peter. Someone's been caring for me very much, I can tell you that. And I guess one that readily comes to mind is one from a plane journey from Port Moresby to Samurai on the eastern tip of Papua New Guinea.
So what's the distance there, roughly?
I'll be probably 300 or 400 k, I'd say, Pete.
So you're making this trip in a
in a Worldwide Air Services Catalina flying boat.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the Wednesday. We flew all the way, about 3 hours flight. But when we got there, the weather was so bad, visibility so poor, that we turned around and went back to Port Moresby, and they rescheduled the flight for the next day. And on the next day, Captain Bligh.
That's his name.
Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, he sat in the right-hand seat and let a 24-year-old be in control of the aircraft, and we did the long flight, and then we decided to land. Well, with the Catalina, you may know, but you land at 80 knots, immediately build the speed up to 100 knots, and then snestle into the water. But this pilot did the reverse of that. He went from 80 down to 60 when we landed, and the plane disappeared underwater. We didn't need a shower that night because we all got wet because the water poured in through the glass dome, and the people on shore couldn't believe that we popped out. They couldn't believe what was happening.
So the plane still stayed above the water eventually? Or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No trouble. Yeah, and it ferried into to a small boat, and then that takes you to the jetty, And but the amazing thing was that at that time in Dutch New Guinea, Michael Rockefeller,
who's the son of
he's the son of Nelson Rockefeller, who was mayor of New York and vice president to Gerald Ford and all that, and one of the the richest families in the world is the Rockefeller family. But Michael became an anthropologist and loved taking photos of tribes and mainly tribes that had never seen white or any European or any other civilized occupation.
And they did exist, yeah.
Yeah, but this one in Dutch New Guinea had a reputation for a huge reputation for cannibalism. And Michael went there specially to get photos of them actually doing the act. As sad as it sounds, but what happened, no one really knows. But Michael Rockefeller disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, whether he became one of the cannibal rituals, I'm not sure, but it certainly stirred the Rockefeller family up that Nelson Rockefeller flew out to Port Moresby to help search for his son in Dutch New Guinea. got on the Worldwide Air Services Catalina, the same one. I'd flown 7 days previously to Samurai, and when this plane landed at Daru, within, I think, certainly less than a minute, had sunk because it split wide open. And one will never know, but I've got to believe that the stress placed on that plane that day we landed at Samurai would be one of the huge reasons why that happened. But the native steward, the Papua New Guinea steward on that plane, got everyone off safely in that short period of time. And I know that Nelson Rockefeller really rewarded him in a big way, I believe, after that.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that incident that you had didn't in some way have some responsibility for what happened the week later.
You'd have to think so, Peter. And the unfortunate end of the story, of course, is Nelson did not find his beloved son, And they think they sighted him 8 or 9 years later as part of a tribe up there, but that has never been proven. So I think the case has never been fully resolved, It's sad business.
Yeah, it's that unknown content.
Yeah, the unknown part of it, Peter. Yeah.
No resolution. Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Roy. And now another segment that we've decided to include is talking about a family member. Now, who are you going to discuss today?
Well, I'd like to comment on my mother's father, John Solway, my grandfather, because had an interesting life, albeit as short as it was. But grandfather John had in total 13 children.
Wow, yeah.
And was only married for 27 years. So basically every second year he had a new child coming into the world. And his first marriage, he had 2 children, and the second marriage, 11.
Okay.
And the 10th of that 11 is my mum, my darling mother. And the 11th was born several months, 4 months, I think, after he passed away at the age of 51 from a malignant
You got it?
pancreas.
Oh, okay.
And so it would have been sad days. But the one thing about it all is that at least his wife, who was my grandmother, my mother had her for the next 34 years. So that would have been a good time,
So just give us some names here. So your mum's name?
Caroline Ethel. I don't think... Is there too many around today?
No, but there was almost a Colleen Ethel at one stage, wasn't there?
Oh, I don't know about that, Pete.
You weren't thinking of calling Colleen Ethel?
Oh, but I think we only teased her about that.
Yeah, okay. It has a ring to it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then the name of your grandmother?
Was the same as my second oldest sister, Peter, Matilda, and who we used to call Tilly. Yeah. I never knew my sister as anything other than Tilly.
That's a fantastic dinky-die Aussie name, that's for sure.
Oh, Pete, doesn't that... Yeah, I get what you mean.
Was there anything else you wanted to share about John?
Oh, no, only that, to have the malignant pancreas disease would have been sad. But as I spoke to a medical person, you may have been with me over the last few days, Peter, it's one of the worst and most painful diseases a human being can suffer from. So that's the sad part about it all. And to not be alive for your 11th, or in this case, 13th child for him and 11th with Grandma Matilda would have been such a sad occasion.
No, that's for sure. Yeah, but that's quite a tribe. So he certainly left his mark.
He sure did, Peter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the Solway name is in Queensland and in South Australia. I'm sure it's pretty eminent in both of those states.
Hmm. So we'll look forward to exploring further family members as we go through our podcast. And just like to finish talking about a friend. We're going to discuss a friend from time to time, and we've both saddened by the recent loss of one of your dear friends, Mason.
Oh, Peter, he was just so special to not only to me, but to so many people. And the thing I loved about him, probably as much as anything, is the way he accepted my family. He loved you and Robbie and Jeff and Colleen, and invariably would ask about you every time we spoke on the phone, despite his age. And I'm going right through to even the last few weeks of my telephone discussions with him.
Hmm.
And it would have been 98 on the 2nd of November, as you realise. But despite his age, his intelligence never waned 0.1%
Hmm.
on any subject.
He was certainly a gentleman in every sense of the word, very much old school. He was an Australian diplomat in London, that's correct?
Yeah, London, Paris, Istanbul.
Yeah.
And
He certainly knew the etiquette involved in just treating people with respect and dignity, and I can remember whenever he'd greet you, he'd come straight up to you, look you straight in the eye and give you a firm handshake, and this is when he's in his 90s.
oh, that's a good thing to hear, Peter. Yeah, I could imagine that.
And he wouldn't let go of your hand, he'd just keep shaking it and
Yeah.
then be inquiring about you and your family, and yeah. And he obviously had a gift with writing letters. He did that, cards and letters to you, didn't he?
Oh, Pete, even in December and January, our last December and January, the Christmas and birthday card I got from him, absolutely beautiful. And the writing, the brilliance of the writing, and the words written were just absolutely magnificent. Can I just mention how we first at the golf I'm talking about Long Island Golf Club, where we were both a member.
Oh, this is how you first met?
Yeah, and everyone just admired him so much, and you could be rarely that you'd get a game with him because everyone wanted to play with him. So I rarely played with him in those days, but I did have probably one or two games, I think. But one day on the 17th fairway, I happened to be in the group behind him, and I'd played my first on 17. It's the longest par 4 at Long Island, and I'd played my first. It wasn't just a reasonable shot, and the group of four in front, who I really didn't know who they were at that time, but I played my second shot because they were at least 200 metres away from me, and I played my second shot, and it was downwind and probably summertime, and it went between Mason's legs. And I couldn't believe it. I was so sorry. Naturally, and after the game, you always apologise for something like that.
Mm.
So but we decided to mend it by playing together.
Because that way it'd be unlikely that you'd hit up on him if you were in the same group.
And I've become a strong bond. I used to play with him, and after Hughie passed away, with Mason, Adrian, and Neil, and it became a wonderful association. But as I say, Mason was revered by everyone in the Long Island Golf Club, and no doubt in his other lives with bowling clubs and Probus and other things. He was revered, and his loving family, Rhonda and her husband David, their two children, and now two great grandchildren, and I'm sure they all admire him as much as any parent or grandparent or great-parent would be admired in the world, Peter.
No, he's certainly another gentleman who's left his mark. You'd have to be the better for knowing him, that's for sure. Yeah, so R.I.P. Mason, and he will not be forgotten. So, Roy, that brings us to the end of our first episode of Young Roy. How did that go for you?
Oh, I'm not sure, Peter, but I hope it went all right.
I think it did, and it's onwards and upwards from here. So if you'd like to hear more about the amazing adventures and misadventures of young Roy, stay tuned for our next exciting episode. We'll look forward to seeing you then. See you then, Roy.
Yep, thank you, Peter.